SHARKTIME.
Okay, cheers everybody. I think we make our mark in Cardiff every year. We've just got a final speaker now, and then I think we have a cold drink somewhere. Okay, thanks everybody for joining us. I think certainly it's important. Our trade union movement makes its mark in the city in Cardiff and actually makes our voices heard. So there'll be plenty to do over the coming year, I'm sure, in terms of disputes and fights and everything else. So keep in touch with Cardiff Trades Council. If you haven't already given us your details, please make sure you give your details. But I'll just let our final words go to Dave Bartlett, Secretary of Cardiff Trades Union Council.
Hi everybody, I promise I'm not going to be very long because the sunshine is out, the pubs are beckoning, and that certainly includes me and I dare say everybody else here. Friends, colleagues, comrades, I think the common thread that's come through this year's rally is that there isn't someone somewhere representing thousands who are either in struggle, who are on strike, who are on fighting justice. And in a nutshell, comrades, that is the reality of the society we now live in. And I want to start by echoing what was said upstairs. Let's all give a huge round of applause to the Birmingham strike bin workers who've been on strike for weeks and weeks and weeks. And their only sin was to fight against the fact that the council wanted to cut their pay by 20%. And of course, if you ask the council executives, does that apply to you? Of course, the answer is no. One rule for them, one rule for the rest of us. The same goes for the struggle won by the UCU here in Cardiff. Of course, they're the first to recognise they had to fight that battle again. And this time, to save 400 jobs, to save the nurses' student sessions up in the Heath Hospital. And what is the manager telling them? We can't afford this. We have to make 400 jobs redundancy. This comes from a Deputy Chancellor who's on £300,000 a year, and her expenses bill was £112,000 last year. Again, one row for them and another row for the rest of us. And finally today we have to make absolutely clear that we support the rights of all disability people who are fighting these horrendous cuts introduced by Starmer. In fact, if he's talking about he wants cuts because there's no avoidance to it, well, we debate that argument. But if he's saying we need the cuts because we've got to spend to fence because of tariff or from Trump, we'll have that separate debate. But my question is, my point is this: why don't you tax the bloody millionaires to get that money instead of the ordinary people in this country? But of course, it's not only in Britain. Capitalism throughout the world is now in crisis. And as the crisis gets worse, so does the capitalists' greed. In America now, the top 10 billionaires, the Musks of this world, actually own 20% of the entire US economy. Here in Britain, the richest 1,000 own a total wealth of over 500 billion pounds. That's 5 times greater than the austerity bill, which we're having to actually be the subjects for. That's what the ruling class is like. They're like the dog in the fable. You know that story, the dog in the fable, which cannot bear another dog to have a piece of its own territory and a share of the spoils. Well, we got news for you. If the bosses tell us that every time they have massive bonuses, massive pay salaries, you know what their argument is, don't you? It's the going rate for the job. Well, let's have our own going rate for the job. As trade unions and working class people, that means a £15 minimum per hour for every person working in this country. That's not greedy, that's just reasonable. Let's have a decent national health service that fights for all, completely rid of the absolute poison, no more privatisation. Let's have a tax system that's fair to all. That means taxing the rich instead of allowing them to pay billions of dollars away in accounts abroad where they don't actually build it. And I'll come on to my last point. Unlike the bosses, we don't have very greedy demands. But I'm not surprised, therefore, in the light of what's happening in Britain today, that this Labour government has shown itself what it really is. It represents the interests of big business, not of us who elected them as working class people. And I'll say this more as well, is that at this time, when we're going through a huge austerity crisis, they think that they can get away with it. They think they can get away with the disability cuts. And now, look what's happened in Runcorn this week, where Reform has actually got into power in the by-election and made huge strides. Let's be clear, Reform is not a party of the working class. They are poisonous. They are dissented Tories. Any party led by a banker is not for the working class. But they've been able to get away with it because of the vacuum that exists in society. And I think there are now, and I'll finish on this point, millions of people are asking, where the hell is political representation for the working class? Where is political representation for young people, for students? And that's what we've got to learn in the next period of time. The great victories of these trade unions that we've mentioned, it's absolutely great. That is now to be linked to a programme of building a representative, political representative movement which can meet the demands that we as ordinary working people want. So we can build a society that actually represents us, not the millionaires. Comrades, that must be our aim. Let's go out and build it.
Oh shit, yeah.
Thank you. We're also going to the Prince of Wales after for a drink if anyone wants to join us. Yes, my name is John Williams. I'm a bar worker here in Cardiff. I'm also chair of the Unite Cardiff General Branch and a member of the Socialist Party as well. And it's brilliant to see so many trade unionists and fighters from across our movement all coming together, demanding permanent change for the working class, whose living standards have been hit the hardest to pay for the cost of living crisis, a crisis caused by the greed of big corporations and the unwillingness of the right-wing politicians, and quite frankly, all of the establishment parties we have in Westminster and in Wales who refuse to take them on. Just a little bit about the industry that I work in. which is hospitality. It's an industry, which I'm sure we all know, is dominated by students and young people. And unfortunately, the majority of young people in work aren't in a trade union due to decades of union busting and some trade union leaders who, quite frankly, aren't up to the job. And even though there are well over 7 million members of trade unions, even though trade union membership for the past 6 years has increased, this has not been the case for hospitality. And the bosses take advantage of this, illegally being sent home early with no subsidised pay, last-minute rota changes that make it difficult to run our lives, under 18s paid below £5, and 0-hour contracts as well. And some managers who think they can get away with bullying. We've got crap conditions, crap pay, and the industry is historically understaffed as well. None of this is good for your mental health. And to be honest, the average young manager at a pub isn't the enemy. Most of them are students and young people like myself as well. But these working conditions of these workers aren't due to a single individual, but the capitalist system that they represent, a system that exploits workers as much as possible for short-term profit. And so there is wealth and money to solve all of our needs. The problem is the working class don't control it. Which is why we need to take our ideas out of the movement and to the wider working class as well. And that involves a £15 an hour living wage. We want full control of the rota, not bullshit consultations, which means virtually nothing. But what have we seen from the political class in this country? We have the charlatans who run Cardiff Council, using fire and rehire only a few years ago, who allowed some of the bin workers to be on in-sheet contracts for 15 years, while allowing bullying to spread. And those Labour councillors should be ashamed of themselves. We have a Welsh Labour government under the anti-union sham of social partnership, who dismissed and laughed at the concerns of teaching unions and other unions as well. And that's why it's up to us, trade unionists and at the grassroots, to not just keep up the pressure and fight for jobs and conditions, but fight like hell for political representation for young people and the wider working class. The trade unions need to stop funding the Labour Party. We need a new mass workers' party that doesn't side with the bosses, but helps to build confidence and optimism, because Labour in government in Westminster and in Wales ain't going to do this. A bunch of right-wing red Tories who are paving the way for reform. Unless revilism doesn't work. Gone is a genuine new workers' deal that's been watered down. Gone is the pledge to end austerity. Gone is the pledge to nationalise industry as well. So if you do one thing today, join a trade union. That's the best way to defend yourself against the bosses. Because an injury to one is an injury to all. But inevitably, our movement will win. We know bold socialist ideas are popular, so go back to your unions and to your workplaces. Put them forward, because comrades, change is coming. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
And we have finally finished. So thanks, comrades. And as John said, if you're not in a union, get organised, join a union. If you want help, talk to the local Trades Council. If you're not affiliated as a union branch to the Cardiff Trades Council or any Trades Council in your local area, then make sure you sign up and get involved. Because we are stronger when we fight together and when we stand together. So thanks everybody for coming today. I think we all now deserve a nice cool drink somewhere. Thanks everybody for coming.
If the Eagles paid their fucking tax, we wouldn't have to do this, would we?
That's a false, by the way. Sorry, you're in my way.
Right,